After sharing about the RØDECaster video, there were a lot of questions, and today I'm going to answer as many as possible. And I have chosen what I think is a logical order, but please use the chapters. If there's something very specific you're looking for, you can actually just jump to it. But maybe there's some things you didn't think about that could be helpful. So let's dive in. The first one, what is the delay? This refers to the audio and video having a lag potentially, and you can correct that. So there are two ways you can do this, and I have found, I've tested between 3 and 5. I'll admit, at a certain point, it just doesn't even, I can't even tell anymore, but right now I'm on 5, and let's see how you change it. So over here, let's look at the first way, tap on the gear, and just toggle over until you hit audio delay. When you do that, you can adjust the frames up and down, and then go back to home. If we look at the Rode Central software, and I've got the audio mixer open here at the top middle, you'll see 5 frames. When I click on that, I can make adjustments here with the audio delay and decide if I want to use frames or if I want to change to milliseconds. Also, speaking of audio, is there gating? And this is where we get into being able to configure the audio sources. So let's go back to the mixer. And if I look, for example, combo 1, which is my current microphone, you can see the activity here, and I do have a high pass filter turned on. If I turn off the high filter by clicking active, this is deactivated. Turn it back on, and I can adjust the frequency and choose what is the level that I want to have the floor. So it will cut off some of those lower frequencies and just allow the higher frequencies to pass through. Is there easy muting? I would say, I wouldn't call it easy muting, but you can do muting 2 ways. If we take a look at the console and we click on the audio mixer here, this is actually the microphone I want. If you want to control another microphone, you can toggle through either using your finger or by going like this. When you select the source, this turns green. I know it's kind of faint on the camera. If I long hold, or long press is probably better. That is how you mute on the console. However, if you have Rode Central or open, you can just click here. There you go. That's how you can mute using the software. So that to me is not the fastest way, but it is how you do it on both the console. I know this is something that other people have talked about, so hopefully there will be some kind of faster ways. Like on the Streamer X, you can just click mute your camera, mute your audio really quickly. Question 4, can you pull in audio from slides? But I would also say, can you pull in audio from any of your HDMI sources? And yes, the answer is you can. You just have to add it to the mixer. So let's take a look here. This is on the console. If you click on, let's go back home and click on the audio mixer, and we're actually going to go backwards, and you can get to add or remove channels. Once you do that, you can toggle through and you can pick which one. So for example, HDMI, I don't have any sound turned on, but I do have it added for HDMI 2, 3, not 4. So you can add it that way. So that's one option here. And we'll just go back to home. If we go back to the RØDECaster video, the Rode Central, then over here, I actually don't see a way to add something until I remove something else. So if I know I'm not using USB 4, I can just X this out. Now there is a plus. So there's a maximum number of things you can have on the mixer. If we click add, I can choose HDMI as one of my sources, and like I have for HDMI 2 and 3. And we can actually just leave this if we want. So I do have HDMI 2 and HDMI 3. So this is my iPad, and then this is my phone, which I have set up this time. Now someone asked, a lot of people have asked about 1080 versus 4K, and there's a lot of discussion around from Rode about why they chose 1080. But this person, I think in the comments, actually wanted to know why I don't care more about 4K. And I would say it's because for my purposes, I'm not trying to solve a problem with 4K. I don't need 4K as a solution. A lot of the teaching that I do happens live. And frankly, for live, I'm lucky to get even 1080 if I'm on a Zoom call or a webinar. I am just typically not using 4K. And from a recording standpoint, it takes up so much more memory and bandwidth and all of that. So I am okay with 1080. So If I needed a different solution, then I would look for a different solution, but I'd also probably pay a lot more looking for a 4K camera switcher video audio solution. Okay, can you configure transitions? Yes, you can. So let's take a look at the transitions. And over here, you can see that this blue middle part, this is actually the transitions, but there are two things you need to know. One is you can pick your transition, so tap on this. Right now it's set to fade, and you can choose dip, and you can also choose wipe. Now wipe actually has multiple. So if I tap on this, I can toggle between the two, and I can do that with my finger, or I can also use this. So you can see there are a lot of ways to wipe. Let's actually choose one that will be obvious. So we'll do a diagonal wipe. And if we tap on home, this one beside it is how long. So if I tap here, the lowest you can go is 0. You can do 0.5. Let's just do 1 to make it really obvious. Once you've chosen it, you can click it one more time and it's set. But if you are set on cut, cut is actually going to be always instant, no transition. To get the transition, you need auto turned on. So let's now take a look where this is our RØDECaster video feed. And if I go between my different sources, so this is another one, I have this one, and I also have my phone, and I have a scene set up using one of the custom templates with my phone. So those are some of the different scenes, and you can really see the transition. But if we go back here, I am going to change this back here, and we're going to choose the fade and put this back down to 0.5. And once we've got that selected, now let's take a look at the fade instead. And when we go between these, this I think suits my preferences a little bit more. Oh, it's my iPad camera. And so if you have it auto, that will have the transitions. If you just use the cut button in either Instant or Studio, then that is going to not have any of the transitions. But you do have multiple options for your transitions. Can you bring in virtual guests? So yes, you could. You can, for example, bring them in through extra devices that you connect through HDMI. You can also have someone on your computer and bring that into the RØDECaster video using HDMI as well. Personally, I think right now, as it stands, there are better software solutions for bringing in virtual guests, just for a multitude of reasons. And I just don't think right now that's a tool. In my eyes, I see the RØDECaster video as a production console for the production happening in the room. Maybe you're sending it out to people online who are joining you virtually, but it really, I think, is about the production that's actually happening in the room and not necessarily bringing people in, although it is possible. But I think trying to add more than one guest, I think then you're trying to work around the tool. So I just wouldn't personally advise it. Now, does this work with X webcam? Just insert the webcam here and the examples. So I have the Insta360 link, also the OBSBot Tiny 2 Lite. Those both do not work because they are not uncompressed. So if you are looking for a webcam and whether or not it is compatible, look for the specifications for the YUV or NV12. Those are some signs that it uses uncompressed video. There are also a couple of options, which we're going to see as an example. I think the ZVE1 also has uncompressed video, and there's another camera that we'll see in a moment in a little video. Can you use your phone as a camera? So in my testing, no. You can't just plug it in, say, to the USB and have it work as a camera. However, you can connect your camera. So if we take a look at this scene, this is my camera. And I also showed you that I have this scene here. Let's actually scale back so I can show you the setup. So I have a couple of cables here. I've got my phone. This is a lightning adapter. So lightning to HDMI. So we've got the blue cable, which is running into my RØDECaster video. I also have an option to charge it. It's a little restricted with the cables. So right now, this is sending an HDMI signal of my phone's screen, not my camera. If I turn on my camera, you're going to see all the camera settings. So you'll see what I see when I'm taking a picture, not actually the outcome. If eventually down the road there's NDI, that would be a good option for showing your camera for the phone. But for now, let's actually take a look though at the example. So I pulled up Rode's Shorts because this is in vertical right now, and I have connected the audio. So let's just start to play part of this short.
Uncompressed versus compressed USB video outputs and what you can connect to the RØDECaster video. If you've maxed out your HDMI inputs or just want to use a particular webcam, you can use USB 4 and 5 to connect USB video devices with an uncompressed output. This can be webcam, capture cards, and a heap more. We're even seeing more and more mirrorless cameras support this too. What's uncompressed?
I paused this. One of the things I've noticed, and you might have noticed, is that the video was not completely clear. And I think that's because of the combination I have. It might be because of the age of this adapter that you can no longer see in the video. But this is a pretty old adapter that I bought a long time ago. And so it could be the quality of the adapter that's coming through, because when I did some testing with the iPad, I did not have that video quality degradation. So I'm not sure what's happening, but on the side, that's not in the original video. But I just wanted to point that out about the connection. So personally, like if I wanted to bring someone in through video, I would want to do some testing. This configuration, probably not ideal. But if you are just doing a demo of your phone and showing someone something on the screen and not playing video, like if I wanted to show someone around, then that I think could be a good option. But as a camera, it's really, I don't think, a great option for using as a camera right now. How do you connect the iPad? Okay, so for the iPad, also an adapter, although in this case I have it's not Lightning, it's USB-C. So let's actually go to the desk view, and I've got my iPad that I can show in this camera shot. So here's the iPad itself, and I've got this is an adapter here. And I think it's all in the shot now. We've got USB-C, and I've connected my HDMI. So the purple you can see is also going into the RØDECaster video. This one also has the option for charging, which I really like. So both of my devices right now are being charged because sometimes it takes me a while to film, and I want to make sure that they don't die on me. And so that is how I have that connected. Can you draw on screen with the iPad? And I think this specifically means, so can you draw on the screen? Which, yes, we can. And actually, let me just I'm going to show an example here. So if we go over to this scene and I have my pen, actually, let's go over to this one. I've got my pen and I can draw on the screen. So if I wanted to talk about connecting the microphone and the camera, I can do that. But I think this person actually means green screen. So I also have this slide set up on my iPad, which is just green. And this allows us to key. So if we let's switch over to this view. In the RØDECaster video software, we can see that we've got the green camera. So what I did over here in G is I set up, I have two cameras, my camera in the back, and then above it is camera 2, but I've cropped camera 2 and then stretched it out to the sides. Now we need to key it. So let's go over to camera 2. And here we can do a key, turn on the chroma key green, background is transparent. We can also do this from the device. So if we go to an overhead view, when we're on this camera 2, which is already keyed, but if I click on the key, I can do this over here. So I chose to do it in the Rode Central, but you can also do that here. So let's just cancel out of there. Now what happens? Let's go to our live feed, and just the camera, all you see is black. If we go over to the scene, now we have just my camera. Now I also recommend dialing down the brightness if you have the ability so that it's not glaring green at you. But now I've got my handy dandy pen and I can write on the screen. And so now I can draw on the screen. So if you wanted to draw stuff, now obviously I can't really see where I am. I just know that I've got space on the side and I've got maybe space on the side. So if I was, say, drawing something, I know that I can kind of keep to those edges and still be okay. There are other solutions that exist for making sure that you know exactly where you're drawing. But just to show you something simple, yes, you can have a setup and have a scene on your RØDECaster video where you've got this set up and you're ready to go. And if I just switch over to my main camera, then I no longer have the green overlay on top of me. So that is how you would write on screen over your camera. Can you still have a virtual background? So this person, I think they specifically said in their question, what if I can't show my background or it's messy and I don't want people to see it? My instinct is you're probably not making productions. And if you are, and you are regularly doing that, I think it's actually better to have an actual physical green screen behind you so that you can set up and dial in your background. Now, the reason I say that is because then you can still have things like overlays that show up, or the scene I just showed you, you can have all of that, the overlays, and you can pick the exact background you want to show. But if you try to use software is just saying, okay, what's the person? I'm going to blur out everything else. Or I'm going to show a picture, but they'll block anything that's not a person. So if you have any kind of overlay or you want to show a physical object, it's going to blur it. So I just don't think that for what this is, a production console, probably I wouldn't go there. Or if you are going to go there and you are doing productions, I would probably invest in an actual green screen instead of relying on software to do that for you. Okay, the next one. How do you connect this to Zoom? So I do actually have a Zoom call open. Let's make sure I've got that available. And let's switch over here. So I've got the Zoom meeting in progress. And I have, if I click on audio, it's too big to show in the screen. So we're going to do this another way. Let's show settings. So I'm going to bring my settings window over here and go to video. So for video, I've got RØDECaster video. So if I change the scene here, which is kind of a weird scene now, then you can see it in the Zoom call. Or let's just do the border as an example. For audio, I have my microphone is set up to the RØDECaster video stereo so that people can hear my output from the RØDECaster video. And my speaker, this one I have set up to the RØDECaster video chat. And the reason I have this is specifically so that I'm not bringing in the Zoom call into RØDECaster video. But first, let's just show the result. If I turn on the camera, anything I do on the switcher, which even though it's still kind of weird because I'm showing that green screen, it's going to show up here in the Zoom call. So I am just using this to do the switching. And my audio and my video are both coming from the RØDECaster video, and I control them from the RØDECaster video. But let's actually look at the audio. So if we go over here, that's not the audio. Let's minimize the Zoom meeting. Here's the audio. I have this USB 1 chat. This is a way that I am hearing the audio from my computer, aka the Zoom call. I can have it on my monitor. This green means that I can hear it in my ears through my headphones, but it's not being fed into the actual output because I don't want to send the sound from my computer back into the mix here, but I do want to hear it. So that is how I have it set up. However, I would say that if you are, let's just go back here to this camera feed. If you are someone who, they have echo cancellation. So Zoom meetings are fine for, like, they'll know when someone else is talking and they won't feed that back into your microphone. The other thing is if you're not using microphones, like right now I have a headphone so I can monitor and I know what sound is going out. So if I'm playing a video, if I have anything else, I know what is actually being sent out. But I want to be able to hear my computer. So that's why I have the monitor in my ear, but I don't have it going back into the loop. If I was on just a regular Zoom call, I might not even have the monitor. I might just check it, make sure it's working, and then just play the music or just play the meeting out loud, knowing that Zoom has really good echo cancellation. So just want to put that out there. How does the RCV differ from the ATEM and Stream Deck? So the RØDECaster video, what are the ways that it differs? And first I would say that both the RØDECaster video and the ATEM, these are consoles that run productions. And so they are receiving the input from the video sources, and then it's processing and controlling them all from the console. So it is like a small computer that is managing their production. It's receiving the video inputs. In the RØDECaster video case, it is also receiving potentially your audio. And so it's got both, is processing the audio, processing the video, and you can have your scenes and you're controlling everything. Where it differs from, say, the Stream Deck, which I have one beside, is that this is more like an accessory that can control your computer or software on your computer. This is more like a blank slate, and you get to tell it what to do, but I'm not inputting things into here, and so it's not processing it. So in the same way that a mouse can control your computer, a Stream Deck also can control functions on your computer. So think of this as a clean slate. You get to pick. In this case that I'm showing you, this is adjusting my teleprompter settings. If I swipe through, there are all sorts of different ones, like being able to mute Zoom calls. This is still really helpful, but it's different. So that is how they differ. Think of one as a console that is receiving, processing, and controlling the production, and the other, a Stream Deck can control a production. However, it could also do so many other things. It's not just for running productions. What does the RØDECaster Video do that my current setup can't? So this, I think I've seen this from a couple of different people, but in one example, it was I have a RØDECaster Pro, I have Ecamm, and I've got a Stream Deck. So what does this do that those can't? If your production is working just fine, I don't think you need to change it. So remember that I always say it, but what problem are you trying to solve? If you don't have any kind of problem or pain point, then you probably don't need something new because you have something that is functional and that is working. So just remember that also I can't answer that question specifically because it also depends on what you are trying to do. Now, potentially, you might have some limitations that maybe there are features that address this, but also it's not my job to convince you or persuade you that you need this. I consider my job on this channel to maybe answer questions, tell you about alternative solutions that exist, and tell you enough about them so you can understand it and you get to make a decision based on your own needs and not just because there's something new and shiny that is out there. Now, what would be better if you had a powerful computer? And this is in reference to a hardware solution like the RØDECaster Video or more of a software solution. If you have a powerful computer, this means you kind of have the best of both worlds. You can pick whatever you want. You have a powerful enough computer to run a software solution. And if that works really well for you, fantastic. If you would rather do a hardware option, great. I can't answer that. It also really depends on what you need. There were a few people who commented and said, you know what, I only have a couple of scenes and mostly this would actually be able to replace a lot of what I was doing. And they know their needs and this fits. So again, I'm just trying to give you options and I want you to pick the thing that is best for you and only you can answer that. All right, how does it integrate with OBS? So if you are someone who's using OBS, or this would apply as well to Ecamm or vMix or other production software programs that you might be using. In my case with Ecamm, I have a feed coming from the RØDECaster Video and all of my devices are there. I also do have a feed. Let me see if it's handy here. So if I go to this live feed, I haven't shown it much, but I do have also my overhead shot if I need to show it. And so of the cameras that I've got going in here, there's my camera, I have my iPad, I also have my phone, and I have the overhead shot. So these are kind of devices that are coming in and I feed them in here. And then on the screen, I have Ecamm running. I also have my Rode Central software that is running as well. So when it comes to this, I am using this really to kind of manage inputs. And so same thing could apply to OBS. So if there are functions on OBS, if you use it for streaming, maybe you've got some plugins that you've got set up and you really like it and it's a good setup, think of this as a video input that could be added to scenes. Maybe you need fewer scenes in OBS potentially. So it just depends on what you're using OBS for how this would integrate. For me, for Ecamm, I am using, actually today, I have a lot of scenes because my questions are scenes. And I made the mistake of not labeling all my questions. There we go. And so every single question, like this one, this is a different scene. And I chose that because I knew I wanted to put the questions on in advance, treat this like it's live, and then just end it and not have to do a lot of editing or adding in the text over later in post. So I have a lot of scenes and I also can switch in between the questions and the feed. So that's kind of how I am using it, which goes to the next question. How do I think this will work in my workflow? Now, in this particular case, I actually want to share a little bit about how I'm how I'm currently using it, but also thinking about it longer term, because I have no intention to give up Ecamm. I love Ecamm for so many different reasons, and it also solves a lot of my problems in different ways. I record course content, I go live with it, I use a virtual camera, I can do the comment overlays both in live streams but also in Zoom calls, and those are things that currently I cannot do. And I'm not sure that that is what the RØDECaster video is really built for. What I'm going to do with my iPad here is, let's go back to the drawing here, and I'm going to pick a clean slate. And actually, let's go to this scene. Okay, the way that I see this going, so first of all, I do have a connection between my camera, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later. It's actually, my feed from my camera is going into two different places. My microphone right now is also, we're just going to cheat, we're going to go in the bottom. It's also going into the RØDECaster video. I also, though, have my phone. Ooh, that's a funny looking phone. It's going in there. This is because I'm using shapes. And then I also have right now my tablet, and that's also going in here. And I don't I have another camera that is going in. So we'll just do the shape of a camera. This is also going in here. So I have multiple devices that are going into this. And so my iPhone, my iPad, and my camera. I also, though, have the option, not today, but I also had, let's draw this weird looking laptop. I have my laptop going in there. So if I'm ever using any secondary devices, I really like the idea of them going into the RØDECaster video. I like having that there are HDMI outputs that are always accessible. I can have those cables ready to go, click them, turn on the RØDECaster video, and I'm good to go. It does, for me, simplify my setup when I'm using secondary devices. And I actually I want to do more drawing or being able to visualize things and do that with the iPad. And because of that, and yes, I could do that with my computer and set up the scenes, but I like that there are scenes that are ready to go, locked and loaded in the RØDECaster video. And then, and I have the same background in the RØDECaster video that I do in Ecamm. So it can kind of seamlessly work together. But that's an example of how those can work together and how I plan to use them together. All right, will this replace your Stream Decks? You can take them from my cold, dead hands. But on a serious note, so yes, I love my Stream Decks, and there might be people who truly don't really understand. Maybe you've never used one, maybe yours is gathering dust. For me, they're such an integral part of not just productions. Yes, I am using them right now to control everything that I am doing with this recording, but also I use this for the brightness on my teleprompter, for productivity. I have multi-actions for doing my bookkeeping and my business KPIs. Muting in a Zoom meeting, turning off my camera really quickly. There are so many things and so many different aspects of my life and business that I run through the Stream Decks, not just for running a production. So it is not replacing my Stream Decks. So just want to make sure I'm clear on that. I think the person who asked knew very much that I have no intention to replace them. And then the next one, though, does this replace your Streamer X? No. I mean, it could, but it is not. And I will explain why. So here's a picture. I took a picture right before this because I don't have a camera that is actively on that side of the table, but you can see 3 cables coming out the top. And if we look at the left, that is my camera source going in to the Rode Streamer X. And the green cable is going out to the RØDECaster video. And the third cable on the right, this is connecting to my computer. And you actually don't, in case you didn't know this, you do not have to plug in to power. If you plug it into your computer, it will power the Streamer X. So when I unplug it, it will turn off. If we look over here, we can see green. So the green is coming over into the source here. So if we were to draw this, and I'm actually going to turn it off of the shapes. And let's actually, I'm going to start a fresh one. And I know I haven't changed yet. It's because I want to make some deletions. There we go. Okay, let's go here. And in this case, so what's happening is I have my Streamer X in between. Oh, I'm still on shapes. Let's do this. We've got my camera goes in here, and then I've got pass through going out into here. I also, though, have this going directly into here. And so I don't have to turn on the RØDECaster video if I don't need it. If I'm just hopping on a quick call with someone or maybe I'm joining a call as a participant and I'm just gonna sit there and I'm not using any of the other scenes, then I don't need to turn it on. I can just look at the camera and just have my one camera source. So it's just a way of kind of simplifying things that if I turn on the Streamer X or turn on my camera, the Streamer X is connected, I'm good to go. I've got my image. Now, because of the microphone I'm using, which is the Shure MV7 Plus, I have both options and I kind of have them ready to go. So I have USB and I also have XLR. Right now, I am using XLR. And so I've got my XLR cable coming in here. I don't know if my microphone's not in the shot, but I can very easily, I actually have the USB ready to go. So I can kind of switch between depending on what my needs are. The other thing that does is it does open up the possibility for me to use 4K if I want it, because the Streamer X has 4K. So I do want to go back and explain something with the help. I'm very thankful for Tom for explaining this, Tom Buck, where your camera setting, depending on your camera, and I am right now looking at the Sony ZV-E10, and you can choose the HDMI output. So we'll say HDMI output. So there are settings on your computer. You could choose 1080, you could choose 4K. In my case, I have it set to auto. So this is set to auto. If I just turn on, or if I don't turn on the RØDECaster, so let's just use another color, or we'll do this. If this is not in use, and I've just got my camera going into my Streamer X, then I can use 4K. But as soon as I turn on, so let's just get rid of this X, as soon as the RØDECaster is on, then the auto will adjust because it can sense that the maximum is 1080, so it will switch to 1080. And so that was really helpful for me to find out. Now, an example though is right now, I am using Ecamm to record this video. If I were to say to Ecamm right now, I want 4K, I will get an error saying, no, you can't, because the RØDECaster video is on and that is limiting the resolution. So the fact that the HDMI, it's automatic, it knows there's a source that is limiting it to 1080, the whole thing will be capped. But if the RØDECaster video is off and I say to Ecamm, I want to film in 4K and I just use the Streamer X, then it will actually be available to go up to 4K. Was that confusing? Yeah, kind of, but hopefully the way I described it makes sense. It means I have both options, even though I very rarely use 4K. The option's available and it's set up. I don't have to rearrange my setup. And that's why I have the setup where I have the 4K pass-through, that it goes into the Streamer X and then passes through to the RØDECaster video. That is something that has worked well. So those are the questions that I gathered from the ones that showed up in my YouTube comments. If there are new questions or maybe new ones came in since I recorded this, please let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them there. I'm having a lot of fun testing and playing and learning all about how this could be used. And if there's anything else you're wondering about, let me know, because maybe this can help you to create a more professional, engaging, and seamless virtual presentation.